everyone, and welcome to this video. It is going to be about how to thrift arts and craft supplies. First, I'm going to go through my haul. This is a collection that has been building up over the last couple of years. And then in the end, I am going to give you some tips and tricks on where I look in the thrift stores to find these items and some other cool ways to get free or very inexpensive art supplies. The first item is this flower press. It was $3, which is a pretty good price. It's pretty sturdy. I think maybe someone made this themselves. I used to have this small one when I was a kid, and this is kind of an upgrade. I use a lot of flowers in my books, and this one can hold bigger ones, which is nice. The second item is this weaving loom. I found this in the kids section and it was $1.50. It's also an upgrade from this cardboard loom that I just made myself before I got this. It's a lot more practical. Plus, it's bright pink and it has these hearts in it, which is kind of cool. This is probably the type of item that I've found the most of over the course of my thrifting. I've found most of these in the kids department, and I use them for bracelets and earrings and sculptures sometimes. This is my biggest box, but it also contains some beads that I purchased from new. But a lot of these are thrifted and they're very inexpensive. This one is a bag full of beads, but also some that have a flat back that can be used for sculptures or paintings, which is really cool. They have like this iridescent finish. I have this box, which is actually 3 old boxes glued together, which makes a terrible noise when you open it. I have these two. I actually dropped all of the beads, basically half the beads in this I dropped onto the floor of the thrift store I was in, and I told the lady I was afraid she was gonna get mad at me, but it was okay. She sweeped them up, and eventually she actually gave me this one for free because there were fewer beads in it than before, which is really nice of her. I really love buying boxes for all of these to sort them in. I have spent a lot of time sorting these beads. I got a huge bag full of mixed beads and I sorted them, and I actually got a really nice assortment of beads. For example, these, and they're all natural stones like amethysts or rosa quartz, and I'm not sure what all of them are called in English, but a lot of really cool stones. I thrifted this box, which had a lot of beads in it, and then I've added some as well, and some small containers with sorted beads. It's really easy to make jewelry when it's this sorted because you know where each color is and the sizes and all that, which is really neat because I love making bracelets and earrings and stuff out of beads. For example, I've made these. I think that homemade jewelry is such a fun gift to give someone. I have even more beads in a small container on my desk, but I can't bring this over because everything's gonna probably fall out. The fourth category is glitter, sequins, and confetti. You can sometimes find glitter and confetti in the seasonal departments if your store is that organized. These were in the Christmas section. One time I struck the mother lode and I found like 10 bottles of glitter for $3, which is such a great price. As you might have noticed, I use a lot of glitter and confetti in my books, especially confetti, and sometimes sequins. I have this bottle that I often use. This is an assorted collection that I bought from new in a hobby store. I bought this whole box secondhand, and it's this big assortment of different types of sequins. I've used it in my books. I've also used the sequins in some soft sculptures again. The fifth item is this bag of stamps. It was $1.50. I just think they're really cute. I've used them as decorations on my wall. You could put them in letters for your pen pals, or gift wrapping, or in collages. I've also used some in my book. It's quite thick. There's quite a lot of stamps in there. These are photo pockets. There's this trend called pocket letters, where people use photo pockets or pockets for cards, you know, like Pokemon cards or football player cards. When people collect those, they have these plastic pockets that they collect them in, and some people use that to put tiny letters into. And there's like this whole subculture on YouTube that makes stuff out of photo pockets, so that inspired me to go and get these. When I saw them in the thrift store, I was so excited. And it's the store where you ask what the price of every single item is, so it kind of depends on who you're asking what price you're gonna end up having to pay. And the guy that I asked, he actually ended up giving this to me for free. He was like, just take it, which I was like, are you sure? I'm really? And so I ended up getting all of these for free. I got 2 bags, so I think all in all that's about like 70 sheets of these, which is amazing. You could use this to collect cutouts for collages. You could use it to collect dried flowers. You could use it in art. I've used it in a particular piece that I'm gonna maybe show on my Instagram someday soon. And you could use it for its actual purpose, which is, you know, to put photos in there. Okay, so the 7th category is yarn, and this has an abundance because it's honestly true. I have so much yarn. Let me show you. I feel like the grandma that I truly am inside kind of shines through with all of the yarn that I've been collecting lately. The stores near me often have these bundles with a bunch of different colors, which is a fun way to try out different color schemes for weavings and stuff where I don't need a big quantity of the same color. I've gotten a lot from my grandmother, and I've purchased a lot secondhand. Let's see what's in here. This was $3, and it is a whole bag full of yarn scraps. And there is also embroidery floss in here. There are a lot of bundles of embroidery floss in here, which makes it a really good price because embroidery floss is kind of expensive. I got all of these 3 bundles of alpaca wool. I got these for 50 cents total, even though all of them still have the price tag on, and each one was individually like $10, I think. That's a really good price. They came with this, which is 100% cotton, and it's dark blue and also with some silver detail, which is really cool. I've purchased some individually that are also really nice quality, really soft. I recently bought these together in a bag. I think they're really nice colors and really nice quality. These 4, they were 450 grams and they only cost 50 cents. It's really thin yarn. You could embroider with it. I purchased these in a bag that had like 10 of this type of yarn in it, and I used a lot of it in my prom jacket that I showed you in my collective haul for my statement jackets. I use these for weavings, as I mentioned, and I am a beginner at knitting. I just taught myself how to knit socks, which I think is so exciting because I can choose the colors and the materials, and I can knit socks for all of my friends and family instead of buying them gifts, which I think is great. Another notch in my grandma belt. This is a sock that I'm working on. It is actually knitted with these double pointed needles that I purchased secondhand along with these 5. These were a total of $1.50. This has a detail of this loop stitch decoration in blue and this golden stripe, and I just think that that's really wonderful that I have the opportunity to express myself creatively through socks. I'm also currently knitting these ones. These are from my mom. I promised her to make these for sleeping in, and that was my Christmas present. The promise of socks, not any finished socks. I'm gonna link the video instructions that I followed in the description below, because I think that these were really coherent. So these aren't for complete beginners. I was basically a beginner. The only thing I've ever knitted is like this really wonky scarf, and I just sat down and I taught myself how to do it through these videos and through some other videos. I'm gonna put the links down below if you're interested in learning how to knit socks. Enjoying the hobbies of the elderly when you're a teenager, that's just kind of a power move. The 8th item I don't have with me here. It is a disposable camera, and it was $2 and it was completely new. It was still packaged. I don't know how old it was, but it wasn't opened. And I thought that was so cool that I found that in a thrift store, because I probably wouldn't have thought of buying it from new, but now I'm like completely obsessed with the idea of disposable cameras. I ended up giving this as a Christmas gift to my cousin, and I gave her an assignment that she had to take a photo per week. So in half a year, she's going to get her pictures developed, and it will be the 27 photos of her last half year, which I think is pretty fun. It's a very different way of using photography, I think, compared to a phone where you can just snap photos all the time. It kind of makes the photos more precious. That's why I'm into the idea of it. And I've kind of considered buying myself a disposable camera now from new. But I also kind of feel bad that it's disposable, you know, that you just throw it out afterwards. It's not very sustainable, but that's why I'm happy I found it secondhand. The 9th category is books. Now, I have these 3 as examples. I've purchased more books secondhand than that. These are just going to visually supply me as I explain the different uses you could have of thrifted books. First of all is this book about Rome. It was originally from a school. You can see that in the front here. It's about the architecture and art of Rome, which I think is pretty cool. I've been to Rome and it's a really nice city. I would love to try out drawing buildings and architecture. I haven't tried that. This book is for inspiration, visual inspiration. You could use it for collages with all of the statues in there. This book is not for inspiration. It is for cutting up. It's problematic and it's not very well written, so I don't feel too bad about cutting it up. I'm sorry if you like this series. I'm not gonna say the name, but this I cut out words and phrases from, and I use it in my art. It's a fun way to write a poem or write a text because it's within a limited frame, so it's easier to think up something. Instead of just having all of your vocabulary just available to you, you have this limited amount of words. And then the 3rd book is this 80s book about makeup. I've used this for decor. I've hung them up as posters, but you could also use it for collaging. It has a lot of great visuals in it, like, look at those face masks. And the color schemes, and just the grease filter over everything. It kind of reminds me of some modern photographers on Instagram, like Ladyist, for example. I have a lot more books, but these are just examples. The 10th category is fabric. I have 4 pieces of fabric. One is silver, one is black, and one is this duochrome green and red mesh. One is pink. I'm really enchanted by the look of this fabric. And I really think you could make something super cool with it. I've used this to embroider on. I've also considered turning some of the embroideries into patches for clothes. And for that, I've thought that the pink looks really great underneath this green. So I've considered maybe making shirts with both of these fabrics together. This black one, I actually got this at a swapping market. So I just came with some items and some clothes that I didn't use anymore, and it was a free entrance, and then I just took whatever I needed. I think that's an amazing concept. So this was actually free. I've just thought that this could be used in some soft sculptures or in clothes if I wanted to add pockets to something. This is kind of like the material I would expect a pocket to be. And then finally this silver sateen gray material. I'm just now discovering that there are a lot of stains on here. This was also from the swapping market. It's actually a dress, but I'm not into the design or the shape or this material. So I thought I could either turn it into a nice sateen skirt or use it in some sculptures or for embroidery, etc, etc. So my fabric. The 11th category is wool rovings. I haven't seen this in a lot of thrift stores, but recently I've just found quite a lot, relatively. This bag was 50 cents, which is a really good price. There's a lot of material in here, and this is a really fun color. So there's an orange, which there's a lot of. This is really dense, and there's a little less blue, and then not a lot of yellow. I'm kind of sad there wasn't more yellow, but that's kind of the premise of thrifting. You can't make demands. You never know what you're gonna get. Even finding something like this at all, especially at that price, is a blessing. This bag was $1.50. It feels less compact, which is easier to work with for needle felting, which is what you use wool rovings for. I'm gonna show you. This is also quite a lot of material, really packed in there. And in comparison, this one I purchased from new and it was $2.50, which was also the price for this package, which is like a little color sample thing going on. That's not a lot of material. This is the same amount of material but for a bigger price. You use wool rovings for needle felting, which is a whole new technique and method that I'm still learning about. I'm quite new to it. I had to purchase this foam board in a hobby store, so this is new. It gets these dents because you poke it like a million times when you needle felt. That's kind of the point. Came with 3 different needles with a different coarseness or grit, and this whole thing with the foam and the 3 needles was like $7 or $8, I think. To show you what I've made with this technique, I'm going to show you this t-shirt which says Pipe Dreams. It took me 5 to 6 hours to make this, and I poked myself a couple of times. It is very repetitive but also kind of calming, and I think that the end result is really, really nice. It has a really nice finish. I'm considering selling this once I've washed it and make sure that the wool has a really tight grip on the shirt and that it won't just fall off. The 12th category is jewelry parts. I bought this collection of hollow plastic strings with glitter in them. I've used these for my earrings, and I've also used it in bracelets and in sculptures. I also got all of these chains. It was actually just a single necklace that had a bunch of chains in it. I just took it apart, and now I have like 10-15 chains that I can use for bracelets and necklaces. Finally, I have all of these tassels that were part of a decorative piece, but I cut it up and I used it for earrings. That was the end of the haul. Now I'm gonna get into some tips and tricks. My tip number 1 is not thrifted, but it's thrifty. It's that you can get free color samples from hardware stores that carry paint. I use this for decoration and for my books. Tip number 2 is that the office supply section often has paper, printer paper, and sometimes colored paper. This depends on how organized your thrift store is. Tip number 3 is probably the most important one. I don't know why it's number 3. It's to look in the kids section, because the kids section often has craft materials. As I mentioned, my beads and my weaving loom were all from the kids department. Tip number 4 is to look near the knitting needles for yarn and fabric and various knickknacks. Here are some trinkets like buttons or the same type of tassels as I mentioned earlier, or curtains that you can cut up and use, or yarn or fabric scraps. They had like this dark velvet with a star print on it that I'm kind of sad I didn't get. Tip number 5 is to look in the book section for books about hobbies or art. This is where you can get books for collaging, for decoration, and for inspiration. There was actually a Dutch book about art in my thrift store, which is kind of funny because I'm not in the Netherlands. The final tip, which is tip number 6, is to look in the frame section. You can usually find canvas, and a lot of it has been painted on already, but you can paint over that. Or you can make some experimental transparent pieces with the plexiglass or the glass that comes with a frame. Yeah, the end. Thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you like and comment and subscribe and, you know, all that good stuff. And I hope I'll see you soon. And do stuff. Yikes. This foam